Good morning, everyone. How are you today? Today, we're going to talk about what I wish I'd known before taking the executive assessment. Again, my name is Dr. Roger Tomihama, and I'm an Associate Professor of Interventional Radiology at Loma Linda University School of Medicine. I've been accepted to the MBA program for the executives at the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania starting summer 2022. I have just gone through the entire process of applying for an MBA as a full-time practicing physician. My goal is to save you countless hours of research that I did in learning about this process and condense it down to a series of high-yield, short, informative YouTube videos. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more upcoming great content for business school for the physicians. Okay, so before we begin, I'd like to mention I'm wearing a different color shirt. Apparently my wife told me that I've been going with too much blue, dark blue colors, and so she said to change it up. So tell me if you guys like this shirt color or not. It's a little loud. It's actually my golf shirt, but I thought, hey, let's just see how it works out and if it shows well. Okay, so to begin, about the executive assessment. Just as a disclaimer, I just want to say that, again, I'm not an expert on this topic. I am merely sharing my end-of-one experience and my opinions. Again, there are many full-service professional websites and businesses that are dedicated to GMAT, EA, and GRE test preparation, and I defer to these seasoned professionals for the best advice for you. Okay, since we're mainly discussing executive MBA admissions program and processes here, most MDs will probably qualify for the executive assessment testing option, and thus I will mainly be commenting for the majority of the video on the executive assessment. So, unlike gathering information on MBA programs that are specific for physicians, there are boatloads of information out there that's available for regarding GMAT and EA test preparation. Most MDs, as I said in the past, will probably qualify for taking the executive assessment. However, that being said, the GMAT and the GRE are valid testing options that you can pursue if you wanted to use that for your admissions for your business school application. Okay, so as I mentioned before, I think the GMAT Club is the best go-to source for GMAT and EA test prep. I'll put the link below. I believe the website and the group was actually created for GMAT test preparation, hence the name. Then they have YouTube videos for every component of the GMAT and EA. Like I said, there's a smaller subsection for the EA, and I'll put the link below. But essentially, the website and has endless numbers of practice questions. They provide a free study guide for test prep. There's like a question of the day that you can have sent to your email daily regarding verbal or quantitative questions. And they also have a great mobile app. It's called the GMAT Toolkit, and I'll put the link below. That toolkit has a lot of great practice questions and things you can use and it's at a very nominal price. The content created for the GMAT Club for their review is actually created by verbal and quantitative experts from many of the top GMAT test prep courses and programs across the country. For the recommendations of the various test prep programs, again, there's a dedicated web page for reviews of all the test prep programs and courses, and you can glean a lot of information from these specific reviews. So with that overview of testing, let's go over the executive assessment. So the executive assessment was designed to evaluate your business school readiness based on your career experiences. It was specifically designed for sort of the experienced, seasoned professional who's busily juggling the demands of work and home with the following benefits: ease of scheduling, shorter length of exam, and supposedly less required preparation for the exam. So, however, do not be fooled by that last part where it says minimal preparation. As I said in other videos, the executive assessment is not an easier version of the GMAT, it's just simply a shorter version of it. Most MDs probably study anywhere from 1 to 2 months for the exam. And I think the short time frame is mainly due to the fact that many of us kind of underestimate the difficulty of the EA. And like everyone else, I did fall into this group. So I recommend that you should treat the executive assessment like you're studying for the full GMAT, minus the writing section and minus geometry. So if I were to do it all over again, what I would recommend is, again, I would recommend studying for about a month in the early summer prior to your application deadline. This is somewhere like 6 to 8 months prior to the deadline. And I would go and take a practice test and sort of gauge your process. If you can score well based on the EA format and subject material, then I say go ahead, take it, and get it out of the way early and be done with it. However, if you don't score what you need, then at least you have adequate time, i.e. at least 6 months to buckle down and study the content, the test-taking strategy to score well on the EA or GMAT. Okay, let's go over the different sections of the EA. So there are 3 sections of the executive assessment, and that includes the integrated reasoning section, the verbal reasoning section, and the quantitative reasoning section. So first, the integrated reasoning. It's 30 minutes long. It's 12 questions that are broken into 2 subgroups, and the question types include things like interpreting tables, graphs, combination of reading comprehension, and math skills. The question types that you'll encounter are things like multi-source reasoning, table analysis, graphics interpretations, and 2-part analysis. The second section of the exam is the verbal reasoning section. This section is again 30 minutes in length. It's comprised of 14 questions that are again broken into 2 subsections. And the question types are mainly reading comprehension, critical reasoning, and sentence correction. The third section of the exam is the quantitative reasoning section, and this is again 30 minutes in length. There's 14 questions that are broken again into 2 subsections, and the question types are mainly data problem solving, math problem solving questions, or data sufficiency questions. Okay, let's go over scoring. Scoring, the typical score for the executive assessment ranges anywhere from 120 to 180. So in theory, you can score a 0 or up to a 20 in each section to get a minimum score of 120 or a perfect score of 180. So what does this score mean in terms of percentiles and relative to your peers? So if you get if you're at the 50th percentile, for the test, you will get a 150. If you're at the 75th percentile, you'll score a 153. If you're at the 90th percentile, you'll score a 158, and so on and so forth. There's a great link or web page on the GMAT Club forum that go over the EA percentiles, and again, I'll put the link below so you can refer to that. So regarding your score, what kind of scores are schools expecting, or what you should shoot for? So for most programs, if you get a score greater than 150, that should be more than adequate to satisfy their test requirements for admissions to the program. However, that being said, there are some programs out there that typically have a higher score requirement for the programs, and they may require something in the 150s to 160s to meet the requirement for their cohorts, for their candidates. So one thing I'd also mention about the different sections, even though they're equally weighted and scored equally for concomitant score, some programs do look at the quantitative score more closely than they do the verbal and the integrated reasoning. And that's because most business school programs are more interested in the quantitative score because the business school is mostly math-based, and admissions teams want to make sure that you are able to handle the math workload for the program. Okay, so what are the advantages of the executive assessment? 1, it's a shorter exam. It's only 1.5 hours. 2, you can actually skip around within the subsections for each question. So unlike the GMAT, where once you finish the question, you hit submit, you move to the next question, you can't go back. That's not the case for the executive assessment. You can actually go back and forth within this subsection of the 6 or 7 questions, finalize your answers, hit submit, and then you're done with those questions. There are actually some great tutorial videos for the executive assessment that I found very helpful. First is the how to nail the executive assessment test, what to expect, how to prepare, and that's by Ryan Starr from Manhattan Prep, and again, I'll put the link below. Another good video I found was from the Graduate Management Admission Council on an overview of the executive assessment, and again, I'll put the link below. Okay. Next thing we're going to go over is EA test prep options. So compared to the GMAT, there's actually not a lot of dedicated EA courses out there. There are more and more that are being developed as the exam gets older and older. But compared to the GMAT, there's just a great imbalance in the amount of courses that are available for you to choose from. But that being said, the material is kind of nearly identical between the GMAT and the EA. So you can use essentially the GMAT material to study for the executive assessment in your preparation. There are a variety of GMAT test prep options that you can choose from. One that includes full-time classes, online self-study, or private tutoring. So first, let's go over full-time classes. So these are typically in person or online, and you sign up for a class and you go to there's like a schedule of the classes and you keep to that schedule. These are great programs because they're very comprehensive. They tend to be a little more expensive than your online or test prep options, but again, if you need someone to help you keep you on track and have a set structure for you, this is a great option to consider. The second option is online self-study. Again, a great option. Tends to be a little more reasonably in price compared to the full-time test prep option, but it's also very comprehensive. It has everything you need, and a lot of programs have like a structure and an organization plan to help you stick to your schedule, but also a very good option if self-study is something that you're good at. The third option to consider is private tutoring. And so private tutoring may be a good option for someone who's already really kind of generally prepared for the exam, but just needs some fine tuning for, to really get you over the hump on getting a certain score that you're really looking for. Also for people, private tutoring may be helpful if like self-study may not be working as well. Like tutors can also help identify faults in your learning process and help you strategize an efficient plan for testing success. Again, as I mentioned before, there are great reviews for GMAT courses on the GMAT Club website, and again, I'll put the link below for you to review. Okay, the next section we're going to go over is EA testing options. So there are two ways you can take the executive assessment. One is in person at the Pearson Testing Center, and the second is online at home. Okay, so let's go over the first option, which is the Pearson Testing Center. So, I could go over like the testing process and what I did, but there's a great video that's put out by the Pearson VUE testing company that goes over the specific process and what you expect with taking the standardized test or the EA. And I'll put the link below. The one thing that's different about the Pearson Testing Center is they actually require you can't use scratch notes or your own erasable whiteboard. They have a reusable permanent booklet that you have to use that they give to you. And again, I would recommend just reviewing that. There's a video on it and you can take a look at what to expect when you take the exam there. Another video that I found helpful was the one that was put up by the GMAT Testing Center. It's the GMAT Test Center, a guide to success when taking the GMAT, and again, I'll put the link below. Okay, the second option to take, and if you don't do it in person, is taking it at home online. So there's certain differences with taking it at home online. There's an online proctor that's sort of watching you while you take the exam to make sure you don't sit up and go somewhere and do something. They watch your movements to make sure that there's no cheating going on or anything like that. There's also certain other differences on the online exam option. There's like an online whiteboard option you can use to take notes or do your problem solving, but you can also use your own reusable, erasable whiteboard. However, you should look up the specific requirements because I think they have a size requirement and the number of specific requirements for maybe wearing pens and all that stuff, and you should review that if you're going to be taking the exam at home. There is a nice YouTube video that's put out by Manhattan Test Prep on the Executive Assessment Online, and it's called Executive Assessment Online, What to Expect Taking the EA Online. Again, I'll put the link below. One thing that you should note about test taking options for the EA compared to the GMAT is that there's actually a limited number of times you can take the EA in comparison to the GMAT. So I think the GMAT, you can take it, I don't think there's a limit of how many times you could take it. I think there may be a time frame between exams that you might have to fulfill, but you can take it as many times as you want. That is not the case with the executive assessment. You can only take the executive assessment a total of 4 times. You can just take it twice at your at the online home version, and you can take it twice in person at the Pearson Testing Center. Okay, I want to make one comment on the side about the GRE. So for most schools, they accept the GRE, but majority of the individuals who get into these MBA programs will end up taking the GMAT or the EA just by convention alone. I don't think a lot of people just go out thinking they're going to take the GRE, but this is something to consider, and in certain situations. So, for instance, like suppose you've been studying for 6 months and you're just not getting over the hump with the GMAT or the EA, and you're just not hitting the mark that you need, maybe due to the format, the adaptive difficulty, or the question types, and so on. Maybe consider switching gears and taking the GRE. You may find the GRE questions and the format are more in line with your natural test-taking abilities and your natural strengths, and you may score better. So, something to consider if, as a secondary option for test-taking prep. Okay, well, that concludes this video. Again, thank you for watching the video. Again, please hit the like button if you like this video, and subscribe to the channel for more upcoming great content for MBA or business school for the physicians.